How are you doing?
Hey, Kevin, how are you, buddy?
Life's good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I saw your lovely daughter at the recital concert at Congregation yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was it, by the way?
It was great. It's always great, you know. It's just great. I mean, the kids are really good, you know, and it's just great to see the community come out. It tends to skew on the older side, but it's still great to have the community come out and they really, I think, enjoy it. And there's some really accomplished musicians, you know, living amongst us.
Yeah.
So
she said it was a good performance and she enjoyed watching the different ensembles.
Yeah. Salisbury boys did good. They had a classic ensemble and jazz ensemble that Nika was part of.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's always like, you know, you see the little, you know, 7-year-old go up there and blows your mind that they're as accomplished as they are at that point, like that their fingers can even reach the span of keys that they need to. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, Ellie said that there was one small child that was just phenomenal.
Oh, he was, I mean, I don't know how, he was 8, maybe 7. You know, kind of, I've lost my measuring stick as my boys have grown. I was like, wow, okay. So some are just better. You know, it's kind of one of those things where you're like, it's not, I don't think that, you know, I mean, he certainly may work harder at it than other kids, but there's just a, you know,
something innate.
Yeah, something innate, something magnetic about his fingers on those keys, you know. So, but yeah, no, it was lovely. It was lovely. Always enjoy it. Hello, Ms. Smirnova. How are you? I know that Tom Carter may be a little bit late because he's kind of on the road, I think, and trying to pop into his home office to get on this. But I think that everybody else is coming, unless Sue tells me otherwise. We got a lot of housekeeping to do tonight, folks. Thankfully, that's all we have to do. But hello, Miss Major.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Better for seeing you. All right. We're waiting on Barrett is the only one that's not here, but why don't we jump in the hopes of
David?
Yes.
David, Barrett's in Uganda.
Oh, that's right. I knew
Eric,
that.
it's in Uganda.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Knew that.
He may not be able to jump in.
Oh, he definitely won't be jumping in.
Okay.
I know my man. He's not. He's doing what he's doing. All right, great. So let's go. I'll call the meeting to order at 5:32 p.m. Welcome, everyone. The first order of business is a Board of Ed recognition for those that contribute to Salisbury Central. We're looking for nominations for March. I don't know if anybody has any suggestions. Obviously, we're not compelled, but if anybody can think of candidates, it would be lovely.
Who's the gentleman that does the crossing guard?
Oh, you mean the sixth man of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is just the nicest. I mean, I live on that street. So, I mean, he's the nicest, warmest, and the kids love him. The kids in my neighborhood love him. And, I don't know, just saying.
The gentleman's name is Chris Coleman.
Chris,
But
right.
the kids call him Mr. Cool Man.
Mr. Cool Man. That's what it is.
And they adore him, and he is exactly that. He's the most positive, energetic. I don't know how he fell to us, but he's just like he's a utility player. If you suggest that there's something he can do, he wants in. I mean, he's been like to me an invaluable addition to the staff, and I think we should at some point recognize him. I don't know. We want to do it in March, or we want to wait till the end of the year? Steph, I'll leave that to you, because it's sort of like when you're recognizing somebody for doing their. I mean, I think it's okay to recognize somebody that's just doing their job, but it's going like way above and beyond. And
we can wait till the end of the year.
I think he does in everything he does, but
Well, and whenever we decide to do it, I think the difference between him and someone else would be that he's not, like, his job that he got hired for was to be a paraprofessional.
Yeah.
Then he agreed to, make it work to be this town's crossing guard. Then he made it work to work at extras. Then he made it work to be a sub-custodian. Like, it's sort of the idea that he, does so much and does it with such enthusiasm.
Hands down, sixth man of the year. Hands down.
I like that idea I do like it for maybe a tiny bit later.
Okay.
In the
Like
year.
maybe right at the end of the year, it'd be great to just say, hey, we love you. Thank you for coming onto our team, and we look forward to having you back.
Sounds like a plan.
Sorry, my dogs are barking. One suggestion that I had thought of, and would obviously only if the board thought it was appropriate, was recognizing John Conklin for the same thing, because I think he's not doing just his job. I mean, certainly nobody thought I was going to have this accident that was going to be, put him into his role full time and have him step up in so many ways. And then it was like one of the worst parts of the COVID thing that he happened to be there for. So, he had never even had to contact trace. And then all of a sudden he was doing all these cases. And I was just thinking it might be nice to publicly recognize, like,
I endorse that like 120%. I've because of Stephanie's absence, I've dealt with John in his administrative role, way more than I ever anticipated, because, he really would be working particularly, directly with Steph in normal circumstances. And he's just, as we expected, really just risen to every challenge that's been thrown in front of him. So I think, and that is a case of him, I think, taking on way more responsibility than he anticipated and than we expected him to, and doing it with aplomb. So I'm all for that. Anybody else?
I just wonder if it's sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, I second that. I was just wondering if it's appropriate to recognize the faculty, the teachers that helped with the ski program. I don't know if that's appropriate for this or not, but.
We talked a little bit about that too, because we're going to get to that a little later, but a retiring teacher is a huge instrumental part in the ski program. So we also mentioned that would be something we'd want to fold into that.
Yeah.
So I don't know when, but I agree with you, especially because this was harder to get the ski program going after having not done it and having to make it work with the COVID rules.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a sort of above and beyond. That was heavy lifting for Trudy this year, I know.
Yep.
But I
Okay.
think that we would recognize, I think that's something we would almost reserve specifically for her when we recognize her departure. I would think, Liz, but I'd give a shout out to everybody that shows up there for sure. But she definitely does the heavy lifting because there's a lot of pieces to coordinate, just a lot of kids, a lot of different needs, a lot of different skill levels, it's just a lot. So, and you'd think electronically now would be easier, but it's not. You know, like just check boxes and it'll autofill all your forms for you, but no. All right, so I say in March we go for John. Yes, everyone in agreement? Great, but now I'm glad that we have a little working list now. I like that. That's better. All right, thank you, everyone. Next order of business is approval of our minutes. The first minutes we'll be looking at are the regular meeting that we had on January 24th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted for our regular meeting on January 24th? Thank you, Jackie. Do I have a second? Thank you, Liz. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much. Next is our special meeting on January 25th. And this is our calendar meeting amongst ourselves and also with the other region. So do I have a motion to approve these minutes as submitted? Thank you, Liz. Do I have a second? Thank you, Natalia. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. And the last bit is our special meeting from February 7th, discussing our proposed budget, proposed expenditures for the 2022-2023 school year. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes as submitted? Thank you, Natalia. Second, thank you, Kevin. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much, everyone. And we are on to our financial report. Ms. Jerry.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Sue.
I think I'd like to start by looking at the summary page. And just wanting to point out, if you look toward the bottom where it talks about the 5,000 series, which is site improvements, 5,100, which is lower building improvements, and 5,200, which is upper building improvements. Those are basically our repair lines. And as you can see, as is pretty typical, the upper building repairs are getting very close to being maxed out. You know, we've had some pretty typical repairs, some sewer issues and plumbing and some boiler issues and backflow preventers and other things. But I just wanted to mention that when I look at the budget, I kind of look at those three lines together. We separate them out so that we can track the expenses for the three different areas. But when I'm thinking about the budget and how much money we've spent, I kind of look at all three of them together. So the three lines together are a little over 37,000. We've spent a little over 21,000, which means we still have $16,000 in the budget available for repairs. So I'm not, even though that number of 91% expense seems very high with still a few months of school left, I'm not really worried about that because we have a little bit of a cushion in the other areas. So I just wanted to mention that because that 91% definitely stands out on that summary page as being, you know, very high compared to some of the other numbers. The only other thing I wanted to mention under the 6,000 capital reserve transfers, that's where we have our COVID line. I just wanted to let you know that as of right now, we have spent, let's see if we look at the detail sheet, we've spent about almost $51,000 out of that COVID line, which is budgeted with 82,410. Of the 51,000 that's been spent, we've spent about 15,000 on supplies, and almost 36,000 on our extra custodian. So I just wanted to point that out to you in case you were wondering what has gone into the expenses for that line. We are still working on keeping track of expenses for our ESER 3 grant, which is a total of $69,000, and that will be submitted probably toward the end of the year. So I don't think we'll have any problem spending that money. I got some very good news at the end of the week last week that we, Pam Sangster and Stephanie and I had applied for an emergency connectivity grant through the FCC last July. And we got word last week that we were approved for funding, and we're going to get a little over $15,000 to offset the cost of new desktop computers and iPads that were purchased. So today I filed the invoices to request reimbursement. So we should be getting those funds fairly quickly.
That's true.
The only other thing I wanted to mention was Joe Cleveland told me last week that the auditor that the town has been using, it's a firm called Sandra Wellwood LLC, has resigned. And so the town is going to be looking for new auditors. And Joe is on top of that because we start usually with some preliminary planning and organizing of materials late in the spring. So I'll keep you updated on that. I don't know if the town will go out to bid or if they have someone in mind to take over that, but we'll be in a transition with new auditors for next year. I budgeted the amount that we were spending to have Sandra Wellwood do it in the 22-23 budget. Certainly, if I hear something from Joe before we finalize the budget, we can adjust that number. But for right now, I'm just leaving that as a placeholder. And other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Anyone? No. Thank you very much. That's great news about that funding.
Yeah, it took a while, but
Yeah, it's okay.
Wait.
Yeah, as long as it comes.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you. Written communication. Okay, so we've got a bit here. Just a quick overview in that our offer to our teachers for early retirement was accepted by 3 individuals. I'll read their letters into the record in a second. Sue can talk about the financial ramifications of that later when we get further into the budget process, and Stephanie, kind of lines up what she's planning to do for next year and filling vacancies. But then we also had a surprise resignation, I guess, not really necessarily retirement. So I'll read that first. That's from Carol Hackett, and that's to the Salisbury Central School Board of Education. These past few years have been challenging for all, and I have decided that for my future, a different path than a public school teacher is best for my family and myself. Next year, I will not be returning to Salisbury Central School as a middle school science teacher. I've learned so much about kindness and compassion while teaching at Salisbury Central, and I continue to be impressed with the administrators, staff, students, parents, and community support at SES. I have met incredible people of all ages. I wish the best for everyone and leave the school with amazing memories. Sincerely, Carol Hackett. And I'll just say that she's taught 3 of my boys and 2 of my boys, and she's been a wonderful. She's been wonderful to deal with as a parent, and my kids have adored her, and it's sad to see her go. She's infectious when you go into the room to have a parent teacher conference. The things that she puts in front of these kids' noses, she has an infectious curiosity that she imparts on the kids, and it'll be sad to see her go. And I know that's a tough position to fill. And next, we have a letter from Chris Werner. I'm applying for the Retirement Incentive Program approved by the Salisbury Central School Board of Education on December 6, 2021. I understand the beginning date shall be July 1st, 2022. It has been with great pleasure to work alongside administrators, teachers, staff, students, and community at Salisbury Central School. I will always appreciate the experience and knowledge I have gained during my time here. I would like to thank you for the many opportunities that I had at Salisbury Central School for both personal and professional growth. It is with great excitement that I look forward to starting a new phase of my journey. Sincerely, Chris Warner. She has also taught all my boys and she'll be missed. And next, Miss Lisa McClave. If I shed a tear, slap me. Dear Miss Major, Mr. Ballison and Board of Education members, at the end of the 2021-2022 school year, I will be retiring from Salisbury Central School. During these past 37 years, I have felt extremely fortunate to be able to work with such a supportive school system. My vocation was more like an extended family rather than a job. Never did I even think about leaving my dream world of teaching at Salisbury. Each year, I was blessed with a classroom of eager children who I grew to love and adore, and in return, they taught me many lessons. From teaching lessons to playtime, together my students and I fostered a love of learning. I have enjoyed watching my students progress through the grades, and what was even more incredible was teaching children from my previous students. I'm going to greatly miss Salisbury Central, its faculty and staff, and the entire Region 1 school community. However, the love and support that I receive from students, faculty, regional colleagues, parents, and the entire Salisbury community is never far away because everyone has left their mark on me. This is a gift I will forever treasure. While the future may look different than my last 37 years at SES, I look forward to the joys and adventures retirement will bring. While the smiling faces that line the halls of SES will forever be ingrained in my heart, I look forward to spending time with my twin granddaughters, friends, and family. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to work at Salisbury Central. I could not imagine having a profession that I would love more than teaching. Sincerely, Lisa McClave. And she, again, my two little ones were in her care, and they were incredibly well cared for. I'll miss her very much. Personally, she's one of those people that, you walk in the building and you just see her and you smile. There's just a joy of life about her, and she'll be missed. Next, from Miss Trudy Allen. Dear Stephanie, please accept this letter as an official notification of my retirement. I will be retiring at the end of this school year. June 30th will be my official last working day. I have cherished my time here at Salisbury Central as a school librarian, media specialist. The past 41 years have flown by. This school has always been like a second family. The relationships I have made throughout the years have made a profound impact on my personal and professional growth. Salisbury Central will forever feel like home. I am more than pleased to offer my assistance with the transition process and handing over duties to the new replacement. Kindly let me know how I can best help during the transition period. Also, please let me know what steps need to be followed in order to initiate the retirement process. I look forward to your able guidance. Thank you again for your support over the years. I wish you and the school the very best. Sincerely, Trudy Allen. So there we have it. A little changing of the guard happening. And, we look forward to no doubt dedicated and talented individuals that Stephanie will populate our building with to replace them. Okay, next we have an opportunity for public comments on any agenda items. Hearing none. Tom, I'm assuming that's you, right, in the cell?
C'est moi, yes.
Yeah.
No comment, no public comment though.
Okay, all right. There's nobody, no rabble rousers around you to want to say something?
I can go look for some.
No, we're
let me
good.
know.
We're good. Welcome. Next is our committee reports. Mr. Moon, I believe, is probably entering finals right about now. Liz, are you guys on finals? Not yet? Oh, I'm sure he has some
We
other.
don't do finals. That's Salisbury.
Oh,
We don't have
okay.
finals till June.
Oh, you just, really?
Yeah. Keith Moon's swim team had a great weekend though.
Oh, they did. So he's off celebrating?
I don't think so.
Anyway, I'm sure he has valid excuses. Lisa, is there anything about Region 1 that you think we need to be updated on?
Yes, actually there is. Thank you, David,
Ah.
and good evening, everyone. The most salient things is they also had resignations and retirements at the high school. So 2 in the math department, Mike Lazaro resigned to go take a position in Danbury School District, and he started in mid-February. And the board wished him well, accepted his resignation and wished him well. And then Darlene Membrino is retiring, and same thing after over 20, almost 30 years, I think, right, Jackie? There at the high school. She's retiring and excited about going on to the next stage of her life. And they accepted her resignation with regret and wished her well in the next step of her life. And then, of course, you all know that they hired Dina Conalog for your pre-K. And so the board approved that with a whole lot of excitement. And then the last thing I'll say is that they have 2 very exciting field trips coming up that were approved by the board. One to Japan in April of 2023, and then one to Ireland and Scotland in July of 2023. And the travel club has already met with families and has people signed up to go on those trips. So those are the highlights.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lisa. That's exciting. Is China coming back at some point or no?
I don't know. We haven't talked about it much. We'll have to see.
Okay. Maybe we should talk to the superintendent about it. Hey, next up, any questions for Lisa?
Lisa, who is leading the Japan trip?
I'm not sure who's leading that. There's some discussion that I might go on it. I don't know. So we'll see.
Cool.
That's great. Building and grounds committee update. There's nothing really to update. We are, have had a lot of talk with the shift in protocols for kind of day-to-day masking and spacing, about what changes there might be in the requirements of the custodians moving forward. There's been no clear guidance that we've gotten thus far, but I'm sure that it will. There's sort of at least what I measure to be a silly requirement where they have to go in and open windows an hour and a half before teachers are in the rooms, which, whatever virus was there was gone, and opening the windows just costs us more in heating oil. And it seems there are a few things that initially, when we knew very, very little about this virus, how it's transmitted, how it lives in our spaces, whether it was sanitizing surfaces or airflow, there seems to be some things that can go away, and hopefully that will free up our custodians' time. But none of so there's been a lot of talk about that. Nothing else much. Sue mentioned that the repairs to some sewage issue, which I mentioned before, we're getting pricing on, and it's basically a run of sewer pipe that leaves the building from the kindergarten areas and goes out to the sewer, and it's just old and antiquated and basically needs to be redone. It's a substantial project. I'm not quite sure what the numbers will be. It's just a matter of basically digging up almost the front of the school, putting in new pipe, and replacing the front of the school. So, well, there'll be more on that later. But nothing else that I can think of as far as burning and pressing. Any questions
David?
about? Yeah.
I have a question. So are they saying that they need to do the window opening? That they think that's still part of their protocol?
That was my understanding. I know that Brian has been in touch with Sam about it.
Okay.
I would see, for me, I understand that when it's possible, we should open those windows for airflow, but I would think that the teacher walking into the classroom would do that, before there are bodies breathing in the classroom. When it's been empty all night, there's no reason to let it sit for an hour and a half with wind blowing through it,
So
whether it's
maybe,
cold wind or not, but go ahead.
so I'll talk to Sam tomorrow. Maybe it's necessary to review all those custodians' COVID protocols, because some of them are pretty outdated, it sounds like.
It feels like it to me, and basing it, we were trying to kind of do a measurement, looking forward to custodial needs next year. What the workload is and where it's been exacerbated by COVID and where we can pull it back, since everything else is also being pulled back. And that was one of the things that was like, he's got to spend 45 minutes running around the school opening windows before anybody gets in the building.
Yeah.
And I was, that should have gone away like 6 months ago. Anyway.
Hey, I didn't realize they were still doing that. So I'll talk to Sam tomorrow.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lisa. Any other questions? Hearing none. ABC committee, we did not have an ABC meeting this month because there was really no pressing business. We have continued in our committee work of defining a search for permanent assistant superintendent, and we did make a decision to hire Mary. I'm blanking on her name. Broderick, thank you, to guide us through that process. She infamously led us to Lisa Carter as the assistant superintendent many moons ago. So I feel we're in very good hands. And more on that later. Any questions? Hearing none. We have a couple of non-resident attendance requests for the 2022-23 school year. So I'll read them and then let Stephanie give us some feedback about each. Dear Salisbury Central School Board of Education members, I'm writing to request permission for my daughter, Peyton Lawler, to join the Salisbury Central School community for the upcoming school year, 2022-2023. Peyton would enroll as a kindergarten student. Having Peyton enrolled at SES will allow me the flexibility to perform my professional responsibilities outside of the normal school hours. For example, IEP meetings, parent meetings, teacher consultations. In addition, having Peyton at SES will allow me to be actively involved in her educational experience. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. With warm regards, Sarah Lawler. Steph, you frame it all for us?
Or I was, is it okay with you if you read them both and then I talk about them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sorry, yeah.
Thanks.
That'd be better for me. The second letter is from Sarah Freund, and it says, Dear Salisbury Central School Board of Education, I'm writing to request for my sons, Blaze and Rowan, to attend kindergarten next year at Salisbury Central School. Their older sister, Avina, has been thriving both academically and socially at Salisbury Central School for 2 years, and will also reapply to attend next year in 3rd grade. She's been a walking, talking advertisement for SES because of all of her wonderful experiences here. Based on her reviews, her 2 brothers cannot wait to join her at the big school. They are currently at Housatonic Child HCCC. I wanted to get the ball rolling early for my K-aged kids because I'd like to have them participate in the K registration in April. So I'm submitting this letter now for your consideration. Please let me know if they can attend school here in Salisbury. Thank you, Sarah Freund.
Okay. So the one piece that I want to weigh in on is, well, first to say I totally love when we have staff kids and I support that is to the best that we can. But to be responsible, I feel like we should wait to make a decision on these until after kindergarten registration. That's going to be April 5th and 6th. And I just feel like to do the part of the policy where it says that we can ensure that we wouldn't need an extra class when we accept these requests, I don't have all the numbers and I don't know the class size of kindergarten yet. So I would prefer to wait until our April meeting and make a final decision after we've had those numbers. Not that we don't hope it works out, but just so that we're sure.
Just so that it's clear what choice we're making if we make the choice to admit them, in other words. Yeah. So, but for people that aren't familiar with the process, we extend the ability for any of our employees to have their kids educated within our building as long as the board approves it. And we have to always take into consideration the fact that if all of a sudden we have to create a second section of a grade or a third section of a grade, that requires a pretty big financial commitment from the town to, again, hire another qualified teacher. So we generally, in general, hey Keith, how are you? In general, we try and keep, class sizes to, to well under 20, let's put it that way. And, there's a potential in extending this to our employees of changing that ratio of teacher to student or number of teachers. So I'd entertain a motion to follow Stephanie's advice and wait to make a decision upon these requests until our April meeting. Do I have such a motion?
Does that fall in line with the precedent in this case?
Well, we haven't had the situation where somebody's requested before registration or three
Okay.
requests for the same grade level.
Yeah.
I think if we had one, we might not think of it necessarily, but three for the same grade level. I can't think of a time that we've had that before registration. We used to, before COVID, do registration in February for everyone. So we would know by now, but because of COVID, we waited for outside registration to be in April so we could do it outside if we had to. But I think what it follows is the idea that we're supposed to have a sense of the class size before we decide. That would be the one part that it follows. And again, I definitely want to make it clear that, I want them to come. I wouldn't want to come back to you and say, oh, guess what? We have to have 3 kindergartens. And then we had taken 3 kids that maybe we shouldn't have taken or something.
And being responsible. Yeah. I mean, it's, I don't know if I think Stephanie's point is right on it. We're just really loaded, these requests are all loaded in one area. It's not like, 3 individuals across the grade spectrum. It's 3 kids coming into kindergarten and we don't even have the even after registration, they're really still preliminary, but it's way closer to what the actual number will be than. Yeah.
I just thought of another thing, as far as Sarah's request, Sarah Freund's request mentioned that she wants to be able to do registration. We would still have them all do registration, like go through the process. So we would understand where you fall as far as kindergarten, early kindergarten. And then your request would stand, April 5th, whatever our meeting in April is, we would make a decision on it. So I wouldn't keep them from the process because I think they have to do the process for us to have the information.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I would entertain a motion to follow Stephanie's recommendation that we hold off making a determination on these requests until our April meeting. Do I have such a motion? Anybody? Thank you, Jackie. Do I have a second? Thank you, Kevin. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of putting off making a decision about these 2 requests until our April meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much. Thank you, Stephanie. I hope it all works out. So Keith, we kind of ran past your segment. Is there anything you want to jump in and add? I know you've got 12 irons in a fire right now. So
yeah, no, we've been, I think the thing I've been busiest with at the Region 1 level is the budget, and we have more meetings coming, and it seems to me that largely we haven't run into unexpected obstacles. This is my first time through at this level, but I think we're on track for the budget date that we had targeted, and it seems as though things are going as expected in a year where lots of things have become more expensive.
Yeah. Great.
So I don't really have much more to report. We have our next meeting Monday, regular meeting. Our budget meetings have been frequent, but the next regular board meeting is Monday.
All right, great. Any
I think
questions?
Everybody's relieved about masks and.
Yeah. Good. The high school seems to be exhaling, no pun intended. Yeah, all right. Thank you very much, Keith.
Okay, I'm gonna duck
Always-
out.
It's always good to see you, brother.
Good to see you. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Next item of business is a budget update. Stephanie.
Okay, this is very simple. The budget that we are, actually, let me back up. I was thinking about what you said about the retirements. So I had mentioned this a little bit in our budget workshop, but the budget that you saw then, which is the same budget that's here now, does account for replacing all of the retirees at, I think it's a middle ground level that we usually use. Certainly not someone like they are at a top step, but not a brand new out of college person either. It gives us kind of some wiggle room to get a little experience if we need it. And it's sort of the number we tend to use for budgeting. So they're all in there now as being replaced. Certain things I think would go without saying, like we will certainly have a kindergarten teacher, right? No matter what. But
Right.
Other things, I'm still working with how I want to do it. For example, the middle school math teacher, I am working on a plan that wouldn't replace a full-time middle school math teacher probably because we have two others, but might be something that's more math enrichment, math intervention instead. But the monies are all still there for those positions while we figure out how we want to work it. So as far as the budget impact, nothing is different than what you already saw because we already knew of these people at that time. We just couldn't say their names.
Mhm.
And then as far as the overall budget, what we showed you at the budget workshop is what we would like to bring to the Board of Finance. Sue and I met and we talked about, were there any changes that we were ready to make yet? And we didn't really think that there was anything yet. We don't have new information on any of the numbers where we were waiting on for information. We haven't fully, developed some of the things we were talking about, like having an added wellness or social emotional person. So we thought that if we could bring this version to the Board of Finance, then we would just get their input as to how they're feeling about this percentage increase and the COVID line, which, that's something we'll talk about a little after because, COVID things do seem to be changing. Maybe we wouldn't need the line quite to that extent, but we thought that would be tweaks we could make after this meeting on Thursday. So we're thinking that we would like you to approve this one to take to them unless you have other ideas.
I do want to mention that I received new numbers from Sam Herrick today for our portion of Region 1. And the numbers are $24,358 more than what is in that budget draft that you have there. That increases the portion a little bit. Instead of being 3,999,000 or 996, it's 4,018,544. And I did share that information with Joe Cleveland today, so that he can be thinking about that going into the Board of Finance meeting on Thursday.
Mhm. Any questions? So we're looking at proposing a budget increase of just under 4%, correct?
Correct.
Overall, okay. Well, I would entertain a motion to approve the presentation of this proposed budget to the Board of Finance. Thank you, Natalia. Do I have a second? Thank you, Jackie. Any discussion? All those in favor of presenting this budget proposal to the Board of Finance this week, say aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much. Go with God.
We'd love to have, I will share the meeting information with all of you. And if anyone would like to join us in support of Stephanie's presentation, we would love to see your faces on the screen.
Sue,
Yeah,
do you want Sam to be there? Or Sam and I to be there to talk about the high school at all?
well, I was thinking about that today and thinking that there isn't an opportunity unless the Board of Finance were to attend your public hearing on the budget for them to ask questions. And there's some new members on this current Board of Finance. So I think if one or the other of you could be there, it would, that would help Stephanie and I in terms of us not trying to answer questions about the Region 1 budget.
I can talk to Sam. I had spoken to him about that. That's Thursday night, right?
Yes.
At what time?
6 o'clock.
Yep, 6 o'clock. I haven't gotten the Zoom information yet, but I can share that with you when I do get it.
Okay, that would be great. And I'll talk to him. I can do that. I think it would be better if he did,
Yeah,
just because he knows every line of that budget. But I can speak in general terms
okay,
if they need it. And it's the first time that the budget's been up significantly in about 5 years. So I think it would be great if somebody could explain why that's happening.
okay, great.
All right, great. Any other questions, comments, observations, jokes? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Sue and Steph. I think we're starting off in a really good place, and I know you guys haven't gone over anything with a fine-tooth comb as far as what's absolutely necessary, but I feel like we can pivot a little bit if the Board of Finance asks us to, which indubitably they will. But thank you for your hard work getting it together. Next is some policy work. Our region-wide policy committee policies that this is our second read.
We have
Yes.
to do the calendar.
Oh, sorry. Ooh, that's bad. That's bad check marking by the chairman. So the next item of business is discussion of our proposed calendar for the 2022-2023 school year. Obviously, I think all were in attendance at the kind of region-wide meeting where we had our little breakout rooms to discuss what was proposed. So I would certainly, I don't know how much discussion we need to have tonight, but I would certainly, to start it off, entertain a motion to approve the 2022-2023 Salisbury Central School calendar as submitted. Thank you, Jackie. Do I have a second? Thank you, Natalia. So any discussion or concerns? Yeah, go ahead, Liz.
I just wanted to point out the February, the break that we just finished with the 2 days off and then the half day. For parents that I spoke to, I understand the rationale behind that. It also felt like a large hit. And then of course, there's nothing we could do about the Friday snow day, but it was before the snow day. And it just, I understand the reason for the half day there. It's just a lot, I think, for parents to manage. For what it's worth, I will still vote for the calendar. I just share that.
Thanks, Liz, for sharing that. I wonder, that is one of the, I guess Lisa, my question is more for you, I think. Do we have any ability to move that date as Salisbury, or I know that's not a regional one. So is that something we have the ability to move, or are we just bound to what it is or not having it at all? What are our options?
That's not a regional day, is it, Scott? A regional early dismissal day? So you would either not have it, you would have to not have it at all.
So we don't have the option to put it somewhere else.
No.
Because of busing concerns or because,
We're really trying to keep the calendar pretty consistent. And if everybody starts moving those days around, then
it becomes
it's,
chaos, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I understand. I was just checking. So our choice is to not have it at all or to have it there. And
right.
I will say, that's hard because I also I understand and felt what Liz felt. And yet we feel at Salisbury so tight for our professional learning time just because of the nature of being so big and having so many different groupings that need to come together and so many different initiatives. I worry about letting it go because it's regional in January, which means it's not for us to use the way that we want. And then it's a regional in March and there's none in April. So it'd be a long time for us to not have Salisbury Central time to work.
I think I, as a teacher, would say you should keep it. I just share that,
Yeah,
you know,
no, I appreciate
in
that.
the future,
We have
maybe.
talked about that. I think, we're always trying to meet different needs, which, it doesn't break up a different week, which is other boards have that concern where they would like to see more, full weeks. So it's tricky.
Yeah.
That seems to be an overriding concern every year is how many full weeks can we have? And February is a short month and then there's that long weekend. So it just seemed we talked about that a lot.
So like you're taking a hit, you might as well just take a bigger hit.
All at once, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any other discussion, concerns? All those in favor of approving the proposed 2022-2023 Salisbury Central School calendar, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much, everyone. Okay. Next is some policy work. Region-wide policy committee met and presented these policies to us previously, and this is our second read of them. Do you want to lead us through this, please? Muted.
I think you read these all for the first read last time, so I would take any questions that you have on any of those.
Any questions?
As I said last time, they're all policies that most of your boards of ed have. I think Salisbury has, and they were just updated to reflect that, some of that tweak to the legislation. So.
Any concerns or discussion? Then I would certainly entertain a motion to approve these policies 0200, 1110.1, 3542.43, 4118.11, 5113, 5113.2, and 6159 as submitted. Do I have such a motion? Thank you, Natalia. Do I have a second? Thank you, Kevin. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the previously read policies, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much, everyone. And having actually participated in one of these region-wide policy discussions, Lisa, it is an incredibly more effective way of going through this stuff than we previously had. Just to say.
Thank you. I'm glad you think so. I hope it continues because the amount of work will continually reduce over time. So.
Yeah. So then we have some new region-wide policy committee policies for our first read. And Lisa, again, do you want to take the lead on that?
Sure. So these are policies that you already have again, but they have been, when we did the Title IX training with Jessica Richmond Smith from Shipman and Goodwin, she said that the CABE policies as written, she said there wasn't that much difference between the policy and the regulation. And, usually the policy gives you the main thrust of the legislation, and the regulation is really the process that the school follows. And so she gave us and she also said that they were out of date in terms of the legislation. So she gave us model policies for bullying and for the Title IX for students and the Title IX for staff. I think they're better written. I think they're more easily understood, and I think they're better organized. And then the FMLA, again, that policy that we had was a CAVE policy, and it was very general, and Michelle Curtis read it, and she felt that we would be better served if she worked with Ed Advance and wrote a policy that was closer to our practice. And so that's what you have in front of you there. So let me just look at those for 1 second. The FMLA, there was a question when we met as the general, together as the group. In the eligibility, Roman numeral number 2, where it says the employee has been employed by the school district for at least 12 months, has 1250 actual hours of service, works at a site where there's a minimum of 50 employees. There was some concern that for some of our schools, that is not the case. So Michelle called the Department of Labor, and they consider us as a region, an entity. So because we have over 400 employees, we are well within the limits of the policy.
So even though our school only employs X number of, we would fall under the umbrella of the region.
Of the region.
In regards to the policy?
Yes,
Okay.
Correct. So
Because we had considered doing an optional note for each district saying we kind of waive that requirement so that employees felt protected, I guess. You know what I mean? If you're working in a school that only has 40 employees, you knew that we were going to honor this agreement regardless of the size of the staff. But
that's correct. But then when Michelle checked on it, it was they said, no, you don't need to worry about that. You don't need to make that note because you're protected by the Region 1 umbrella.
okay. Is there a way to word that in here, Lisa, though, so that it is a policy of that it's it points to the size of Region 1, or no? Is that not
I don't
necessary?
think she said we don't have to.
Okay.
That she was advised that we don't need to do that.
Okay. I mean, I don't think that there's any district in this region that would not honor it, but I just want to make sure it's clear to all employees.
Well, she does all of the administration of it. So it's all administered out of the central office. So we are the employer. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. As far as this.
So it's
as far
not subject to interpretation by anybody other than Michelle,
Got it.
in
Okay.
collaboration with people at the local level.
Got it. Okay.
And then the other one, I think there was a question about language in the Title IX. Oh, no, in the bullying. For the purposes of bullying means an act that is direct or indirect and severe and or a series of actions that are persistent or pervasive. There was language proposed that it was to make it more clear that it can be a one act or a series of acts. When I asked Jessica Richmond Smith about changing the language that we talked about, she strongly recommended against that, as that this is the way that the language reads in the legislation, and she does not like to change the way the legislation reads. And she thinks it's very clear that it is an act that is direct or indirect or severe and or a series of actions that are persistent or pervasive. So
it could be one singular, say, escalated act, or a few pokes every week, but they still count, kind of
right,
idea.
Right. So so that language stays as written.
Okay.
those were the only two things I needed to check on, and I did, so.
Well, then, any questions or concerns about any of these policies as presented? From anyone? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to table these for a second read. Once we clean up language and put our name to it. Thank you, Natalia. Do I have a second? Thank you, Jackie. Liz, Ty. Okay, all those in favor of tabling these till our second read, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining. Thank you very much, everyone. And finally, we have some policies for our first read, and this is part of our ongoing review of policies that we began. When did we begin this, Sue?
2 years ago.
There you go.
Feels like,
Thank you all new people for joining us on this journey.
yes.
We're almost done. We're kind of almost done with it, and the idea is that moving forward, what's the rule, Lisa? Every 3 years?
Every 3 years, so essentially when you finish this one, you're gonna start a new audit. But because it won't have been so long between audits, the number of things that you have to change should be significantly fewer. And as long as I keep up with these quarterly updates from CABE, the work should be significantly reduced over time.
It should just be an ongoing process where there's
Yes.
5 items we have to address, let's say at every meeting. But let's say that. I don't think it'll be that much, but as opposed to some heavy lifting that we've been doing the last 2 years.
Oh, right. But it's part of your job. I mean, you should be reviewing policies all the time. So that's just part of a role of being a board member.
Yeah. It's one of the few things we're actually in charge of.
So
Correct.
these two policies are in fact the last two policies to review in the 4000 series, except for a few that were tabled. But I think some of the ones that were tabled have now through the region-wide policy committee are being taken care of. So once we look at these two final 4000 series policies, we're probably going to go back and look at some in the 5000 series we haven't done yet, and we have 6000 and 9000, and so we're not done. The fun's not over yet, but we'll be able to at least wash our hands of the 4000s.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it is.
What I did with these two policies was I basically took the CABE recommended policy and matched it to what Region 1 has adopted. So, for example, in the acceptable computer network use policy, CABE gave 2 options in terms of language, and I crossed out the one that Region 1 did not choose. And there was some additional language on the second page of that policy that Region 1 did not include in their policy. So I scratched that out also. So those are the 2 changes to that one. And then the non-discrimination on the basis of disabilities, I did the same thing. I have received the forms and the appendix from Michelle Curtis. I didn't get them in time to put them in the packet for tonight's meeting. If anybody's interested in seeing those accommodation request forms or the appendix, I'm happy to share them, but they're kind of more for, us to have on file as opposed to being something that would be part of the adopted policy.
I think when we get to the second read, so it'd be good to just eyeball it. But
Okay, sure.
So does anybody have any questions or concerns about the first read of these 2 policies? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to put these out, to table these until our next meeting. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Natalia, for a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those so move to table this to our next meeting, say aye. Thank you. Opposed? Abstaining? Jackie? You in? All right, good, thanks. Abstaining, opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sue. And we move on to our administrative reports. Ms. Major.
Hello again.
Hello again.
So we are, we just finished, as you saw, it felt like they were back to back, although they weren't, but we had our STEAM week, which is always exciting, with estimation jars and where are your numbers. And there was a mystery science activity. Then Mr. Conklin did a thing where he set things on fire, which was thrilling for kids. And they play STEAMO, and there's all sorts of things like that for the week, focused around numbers and science and things like that. That finished. Our math PLC planned that. And then we are already now, today was the first day of Read Across America week, and the theme is Reading Colors Your World. So today was Red Day, and there are things planned for this whole week, including Drop Everything and Read. There's the librarian from Salisbury Libraries coming in to read to this whole school in different chunks. There's, kids are tracking how much they're reading at night, and there's things like that. So 2 fun weeks in a sort of, drab winter, which is good. We had a busy professional learning day on last week. As you saw from the schedule there, the PLCs meet. We've been working with Carolyn, as you know, because we've talked about it a lot, on our diversity, equity, and inclusion. She did a chapter study book group on a chapter called Why Are Our Students So Angry? And that is focused more on angry about race issues. But that was interesting. It's out of the book, Let's Talk About Race. Let's see. And we have been working through our data teams that are focused on the FastBridge scores for the winter benchmark. And that is like it was in the fall, where we actually, so regularly in data teams, we kind of prioritize, because we have a limited amount of time. We meet for 45 minutes with each grade level. So we prioritize, interventions, enrichments. We don't get to everybody, but on the FastBridge review days, we try to look at everybody's score, and we look at a grade and say, okay, which percentage made growth, which kids didn't grow, which kids should have grown. Like we really look very specifically and try to make decisions based on that information. And we'll have some more detailed information for you next week, but we've been working through those meetings, which is great, and great for me. I'm glad I'm back for them, because, hearing, specific details about every student is useful. I'm thinking what else we did for PD. I think that was it, but it was a busy afternoon, and the climate committee made a candy bar with a whole bunch of assortments and baggies that teachers could take things and them. So that was fun. We are in the evaluation process, as I've mentioned. So mid-year review time, teachers reflect on their goals, and they talk about what they need to meet their goals. John and I split the staff, and we'll be meeting with them over the next couple weeks. And then there's also a written component. Especially this year, we're going to focus on, how they're doing and what supports they need, because we're still in, a little bit of a challenging time, although I think there's some feeling of lightness now that there's some improvements coming. And then I had my review with Lisa. Obviously, it was a little different than it might have been, given that I have missed some time, but I still, once you start to put it out on paper, I think we still have gotten a lot accomplished. Bringing back our data teams, looking at our data focus. We had a FastBridge consultant come in extra, to work just with our staff. We're planning for that to happen again. All the work we've been doing with Carolyn, all our gender identity work. So, I think sometimes it's good when you have the meeting, because you say, oh, we are getting a lot of things accomplished, even in a year that's been a little crazier. So that's kind of, I think, the summary of the report. Oh, we talked about the staffing. So as far as that goes, the science position is already posted, as is the grade 2 that Dina will leave to go to pre-K. So those are up, and the other postings are pretty much ready and should be up this week for those, other things like library media specialist.
Where do you post them?
They get sent through a program called AppleTrack, and then the best way to find them is on the Region 1 website. But I think they go to CT Reap too. I'm not sure. Scott might be able to answer that better.
Yeah, they go to CT Reap. They get posted on the CEA website as well. And Jill and I are actually attending a couple of job fairs later in this, in March and into April, specifically at schools, typically at schools of education, so that we're getting, we hopefully will get some traction there as well. So that's coming up soon.
So I will take questions about anything in the report or anything else that's on your mind right now.
Really, anything?
No, okay, well, let's limit it to something. Some people want to eat dinner tonight. I don't know.
Any questions? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Ms. Carter?
Okay, so my report's kind of short now because since I'm all COVID all the time and I met with you about that last Thursday, you kind of are up to speed on that. But when I'm done, I'm happy to take any questions about what we talked about last week. Today, I will say I was out and about in the high school, and Jackie, when I was out in there, it seemed like the kids were still being pretty compliant with their masks. And going through the last day, at least when I was in the hallway and in the library and such. But tomorrow, the masks become optional. I did hear Mr. Shriver on the public address system this morning telling kids how important it was to respect the choices that others are making. And so we'll see how it goes. And certainly we'll be keeping a close eye on the public health situation. The rest of my report, the Region 1 is we're somewhere a little over 4.5% with the high school budget. And a lot of that is coming from increased personnel costs and salary and benefits. And then, of course, our requisite, that's an old building, our requisite improvements to the building that we do every year. But we'll be able to say a little bit more about that after our series of budget meetings. Our budget meetings have been, as they have been in the past couple of years, each department chair comes in and presents the budget for their department. And I would say that on balance, those budgets have been pretty much comparable to what they were last year, with in some cases a slight increase or even a slight decrease. So that stayed pretty stable. Then as far as non-certified negotiations, we are, Salisbury is not involved with that, but the 3 districts that are, we've already had our first meeting and are on our way with that. I do want to publicly welcome in each one of the board meetings, the new principal, Stacy Kalo at Lee Kellogg. She's a fabulous addition. She comes with a lot of experience in literacy, well, everything really. She was a classroom teacher, but most recently she's been a curriculum developer. She has tons of experience in intervention and literacy. And so I think that, and so her experience and personally, she is lovely. So the chemistry is very good with the administrative team. So we're excited to have her. And we're currently in search for the Principal Sharon Center School because Karen Manning is retiring, and that search is well underway now. And then the assistant superintendent, David already reported about that. So that's it. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Kevin?
Excuse me, not a question, but a comment. Just as a thanks as a parent, as well as a teacher in another district, for the forward approach that the administrative team has taken as far as letting parents know about the demasking. And Stephanie, stuff that you spoke of last week, I think it was when we last met. And Lisa, what you said now about the principal of Region 1 announcing it in the school. the culture of respect that is going to be maintained and expected, regardless if you're wearing a mask or not. That is very much appreciated. And I've actually been forwarding that information along to my school, saying this is the approach, this is the way. So thank you for it.
Well, thank you for the feedback. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Kevin. And I was going to actually jump in because I'd forgotten to mention that as it wasn't part of my report, but we did those of you that are parents saw that a note of talking points went home to families like we said it would. And then we also tweaked those talking points to be talking points for teachers as they were addressing their classes, and had Donna Begley review it to make sure that, she had any thoughts, she could add them in. So all the teachers today talked to the kids. I know because Jackson came home and told me, like, we talked forever about people's choices and masks. And so that's good. I know it's happening. And then even on my personal memo that I send to the staff every Monday, I put a blurb on just reminding them in a different way about, we're just really like not taking sides. And we talked a lot at our board meeting about wanting to protect those that still choose to wear the mask. But I also gave some reminders about we want to protect those that choose not to wear the mask. They're not doing a wrong thing and they're not making a poor choice. So I gave some talking points as far as, if a child says to me, Mrs. Major, why are you wearing your mask? I'm going to say, that's what makes me comfortable, or that's a choice I made. I'm not going to say something about the safety of others because I wouldn't want that child to feel that they, were making a wrong choice. So it's just, I gave them some points about what we could say if a kid asks us about our choices. So I think we're on board. We're obviously going to monitor really closely. But so far, since the mask information has gone out, I have not heard anything from families that isn't positive. So I'm hoping that families are feeling generally, good or at least comfortable right now.
Yeah, I want to say, I think the communication has been excellent. And Kevin, I love the Mandalorian reference. Liz, you had something? No? Oh, I saw a hand. Did you're just scratching, just waving?
Hey, while you're going that way, Liz, what are the private schools, or what's Hotchkiss doing? Are you guys doing the same drill?
At 12 o'clock today, we got an email, and I was in the dining hall, and it said masks are now optional. And all the kids were waving them around.
Okay.
Yeah, the boys at Salisbury school were optional today.
But also too, it's different, like I'm sure it's like this in the high school too. The kids are, I think it's more, I feel more mindful of the kids that are saying to, their friends, like, take your mask off, what are you doing? So, we also have kids that are about to travel or get involved in a big sporting event, so they're still wearing masks.
Yeah, I'm curious, like with spring break coming up for my boys, it's a big extended period of, recreating wherever you're going to recreate. I know that in this region, we're very safe. I feel like, especially at a private school where there's been this bubble, it's quite safe. You know what I mean? And numbers are down. But then once again, every time we've seen this big dispersal of humans to all corners of the world and then coming back, things change. So I'm knocking on wood that the numbers continue to go down everywhere and travels are safe. And when we reconnect after the spring break, it remains such. But that's my biggest fear at this point.
I hope so too. The first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I look at that global map in the New York Times.
Yeah.
United States was orange today. All of it was orange today. So it's the color is becoming.
Yesterday also,
Yeah.
Can you imagine when you wake up and you don't look at that map anymore?
Oh my God, I live for that day.
We'll feel like that weighted blanket comes off.
Yes.
I know.
But there's Russia still out there in, that dark oxblood color that they use, I think. Oh my gosh, can you, in Australia,
we don't know.
In Australia, can you people just be better?
Reporting.
What?
We don't know because we don't trust the numbers they're reporting. Color.
No, but Australia, New Zealand too, they're that really dark color, so I want those dark colors to go away everywhere.
Any other questions for Lisa? Hearing none. Dr. Fellows, how are you?
Fine, thank you, David. Thanks for thanks for everything. And most everything that's been in our report has been reported by someone else. So I'll be very, very brief and say that one of the things that we did in January for our February report, seems like forever ago, was K-8 administrator calibrations on our new CPP. So we were at North Canaan Elementary School and were able to visit, I think, 3 different math classes and collect some evidence and come back and talk about that evidence relative to the new version of our CPP, which was very good, and it was well executed by Amy Tepper. The other thing that I'll mention, and then everything else I think we've talked about, we got a very, very positive report from Mandy Van Dellen, who is the person we work with on instructional coaching, and she had just finished meeting with all of the instructional coaches individually. So she has set up individual meetings or school-based meetings for those schools that have more than one instructional coach. And she said that they are doing some very, very exciting things in the schools, even though they're not necessarily going into classrooms and providing feedback to teachers. They are getting information out to teachers in a really good way. So we're going to celebrate that at the next meeting with her, so that we continue that that good work that our instructional coaches are working on right now. And then the only other thing I was going to talk about is FastBridge, but Stephanie beat me to that, so that's awesome. And we'll have a report about the district-wide numbers of FastBridge at some point in March.
Great, thank you, Scott. Any questions?
Hey,
yeah.
Belatedly, well after the moment to ask has passed. Lisa, do we have any contingency plans if there's a reversal or a new strain or an outbreak of some sort? I'd like, frankly, a good soundbite to tell my children. That's the thing they've asked me that I gave a poor answer.
Well, from the state perspective, what the Commissioner of Public Health has told us is what they will do is continue to watch more global public health signs, like their main concern is the healthcare system. So if they notice that the hospitals start to become stressed, that's the only time that we've been led to understand that they will step in again and start to issue kind of a statewide mandate. And they'll look at things like, but they will track things like, I have to report all of our positive cases. And so they look at that data. They look at wastewater for signs of COVID, but really what they're concerned about is the public health system. So then what we look at the local level is I look at attendance patterns, because the hard part of this is when everybody had to have a PCR test, that was reported to the public health. And we had a very clear understanding of what the positivity rate was. Now that there are home tests that and that people are either asymptomatic or they're not becoming as ill, they may be staying home and thinking they have a cold and they don't even get tested. So it's very hard to know about positivity rate. But if we start to notice that we have high levels of absence, and I have asked, as you noticed in the communication, that people continue to get tested if they feel ill and to report if they have a positive test. So if that data starts to come together, then I talk to the Department of Public Health and our medical advisor, and we see if we need to make an intervention in a classroom cohort or a school. And then of course, if there's a new variant, that of course will be something that comes from the outside, and we would get all kinds of information about that. So it's not as clear a metric as we would all like. I'm just gonna have to pay very close attention to attendance and illness patterns within the region and hope that people do test themselves and report when they're positive. And we also, I don't want to forget this because I think it's very important, that we are continuing to take advantage of those state-run PCR testing. So, if we start to get those tests popping up positive, usually if there's one, there's more than one. So we start to look for trends and patterns that way as well.
It's to anecdotally jump on what Lisa said, in this living situation, there are on the property, let's say 6 full-time employees. of those 6, 4 of them ended up contracting COVID. To some extent, their family. So I'd say maybe 20 people all told. Of that group, only one person had a verified test. Everybody else was home testing, and those don't go reported. So the numbers are a little skewed because this, I think the severity, which is why Lisa says, let's look at they saying, let's look at hospitalizations, because if people are becoming violently ill from it, as opposed to mildly ill from it because they're vaxxed and boosted, et cetera, I guess the concern doesn't rise to the level of, well, let's start shutting things down. But it's still, I think it's, for our kids in our buildings, it's do what makes you feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
If it makes you feel safe, let's make sure there's an environment where you feel safe wearing a mask. And if
That's
you feel
correct.
safe without wearing a mask, let's make sure nobody's looking at you going like, dude, put your mask on, so. Anyway, thank you, Scott, for that. Tom, that answer it? You and I can have a little confab about how to communicate to our kids, because I've been going for the last 2 days.
You talk to mine, I'll talk to yours.
Yeah, it might work out better. Great. Does anybody have any questions for Steph about John's report? Oh, no, this is John's contract. Sorry. So our next item.
I was not going to be able to answer questions about John's report.
And anticipate, I can answer because he gave it to me. The next item of business is an anticipated executive session to discuss our assistant principal's contract. So I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session, inviting in Ms. Carter and Scott. I think you can take off, right? You don't need to weigh in, do you? You're welcome to join us, but I'd rather have you go have dinner. So I'd entertain a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing the assistant principal's contract, inviting in Ms. Lisa Carter, Ms. Major, and Ms. Bucieri. Do I have such a motion? Thank you, Tom. Thank you for a second, Natalia. And all those, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Have a great night, Scott.
Give me just a second to set up the breakout room.
Yep, no worries.
You didn't invite Gus.
Oh, that's like, that's like you're wearing a scarf. He's always invited.
Jackie, did they forget you?
progress.
So we exited the executive session at 7:02. We're back in public session. And waiting for one more, two more, three more. There we go. Excellent. I understand that, Tom, you want to make a motion?
I'm dying to make a motion. I'd like to motion that we extend the contract with John Conklin for another year, and that we also agree to negotiate salary and other details prior to June 1.
Fantastic. Do I have a second? Thank you, Kevin. Any discussion? All those in favor of extending John Conklin's contract into the 2022-2023 school year with details of the contract to be negotiated before June 1st, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much, everyone.
Question? Who will communicate that information to John?
Yeah, I'd love it if it was Stephanie.
I was just going to say, I can do it. And I also will be communicating with both of the teachers about the kindergarten registration situation.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Not to get ahead of ourselves, but who negotiates with him on the details that really matter to him?
I think
Stephanie and Sue.
Yeah.
But good question, because we've never done this before. Are we going to do another executive session where we bring that information? So you all will have a part of that. So we'll gather what Lisa just talked about, the other salaries, and I'll bring his evaluation information and things like that. And then we can talk about what exactly the contract will say before June 1st.
And if there are specific expectations that he has, Tommy will communicate to Steph and Sue, and they'll share it with us. So, that's normally what we'll do. For instance, with Stephanie, that's what we've done. We'll just basically say, are there things about this that are awkward for you, language you need added, requests that you might have of us, even if it's pie in the sky stuff. Right. And then we would, speak about it and measure it against the metrics in the region and the evaluation of the individual and make a determination.
Yeah. And I imagine, just based on the calendar, that this will all happen at our May 23rd meeting.
Yeah.
Executive session for both of us because of the June 1st deadline.
Yeah. Or sooner if if we can get up to it, if there's room for it. Any other questions? No. Fantastic. Any public comment on agenda items? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, thank you, Natalia. Quick, Jackie, quick hands. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely last day of February.
Yes.
Here's the marching forward.
Yes. Thank you. Night.
Good night.